Hi, I'm Lamborghini C, and I'm back with another video. So, I've been seeing these titles as I've been scrolling through YouTube um, about layoffs before the holidays. And I know I had someone mention, hey, are you going to do a show about like these layoffs and things and kind of your take on the, the job market in 2025? And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to do a reaction video to. Um, the postings that are there on TikTok. So I watched like one or two of these videos and listened to some of the commentary from some of the YouTubers, right? So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go on the TikTok myself so that I can hear some of the like the videos and things that are out there, and then let's have a discussion around it because it's interesting. Just some of the things that um, are taking place. Like there's a couple of different things and topics that I want to touch on as we kind of listen to and go through these videos. So just bear with me, guys. I'll get us there in just a moment. Again, my commentary is going to be from all of my different vantage points, right? Of course, I have maybe a unique or different vantage point than some because I will be, I don't know, it's hard for me to filter it out, right? It's the core of who I am, what I've been doing for like the last over 20 some years. Um, my HR, right? My HR lens, also that of a business owner, right? And taking into account like the business's perspective and their like challenges and things that they're probably faced with. And then me just knowing from being in some of those roles, the leadership roles, the things that are to come with the new administration, politically, that they have to plan for and the tough decisions that have to be made. Plus, just me as a human being, as someone that, again, like we had to sell out my last corporate role. It was a new industry for me, and I'm like, great. It allowed me to kind of take a little bit of a step back. It was still a leadership role, but it was actually the springboard that allowed me to start Edmund Enterprises, which was my HR firm, which now has transitioned to my holding company that houses my other companies. But it was great because that organization, I wasn't like traveling every week. And they were supportive of me having and launching my business, just so long as I didn't take on clients that were in the same space that we were in. So we just drew up a non-compete, which it's not normal for the most part. Most times if you have another side gig or you have a company, you oftentimes find that they're not going to be warm to that. So you have employees that hide that information, right, for fear of losing their job, with that company. And so honestly, my game plan was I would stay there for about 5 years and transition out. And God said no. He sped it up. He sped the process up, and it ended up being a year after I started with that company. We had to find someone to buy them. And so we did, thank goodness. And so we were able to save like the other employees' jobs. But of course, they didn't take on the leadership team and certain other roles. My role wasn't taken on. I was a director. Um, of that organization. Again, this company that we found to purchase or buy them out, they were a national company. They were much bigger. They had their own executive team. And so they didn't need the duplicate roles. And besides, they said our salaries were too high. And so I didn't end up continuing with that company. However, I did get a bit of a heads up, right, because of my role. And when I say a little bit, like literally like the day before, but also they didn't play games. Like they just let us know straight up, like, we're not going to be able to take the exec team on. But we do need you guys to stay on to help make sure that this acquisition takes place, right? Because part of the acquisition being successful was that the employees, the worker bees came along too, such that they wouldn't have to just rebuild from the ground up and hire all new positions. And so, yeah, I just want to watch some of these reactions and, and kind of see what you guys think too in the comments. So let's go ahead and let's get into this. If we can, I'm going to share my screen. And this one, I think most of us have seen on YouTube with this lady. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we are here. So Caroline, thank you for meeting us with us today. As it's shared today at the staff meeting, we are meeting with those who are most directly impacted by this restructuring decision. Unfortunately, your position is one that is being eliminated. I want to recognize how challenging this news might be. Please know that this decision is no way a reflection of your effort, the impact you've had. You have been a vital part of our team, and I deeply appreciate your hard work, dedication, and commitment. I know there's a lot to process, and it's a difficult situation for all of us. Please know that I'm here to support you through the transition in any way I can. Here to provide you with additional information on next steps, so I'll turn it over to her to share more details.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Okay, I'm going to share some info with you. And you might, if you want to, you can write it down.
Oh, I'm recording this.
So, what was that?
I'm recording this.
Okay. So we've put a package together for you. No other changes. You'll be paid through the end of the week. So if you don't do anything at all, you'll still be paid through the end of the week. You have the option of staying through the end of the month if you sign what's called a transition of duties letter, and I'll get into the details of that in just a minute. And you can also keep your monitor and your keyboard and all of that kind of stuff. We would just need the laptop back. If you decide tomorrow that you don't want to stick around to the end of December, you'll receive that package tomorrow, and you'll be paid through the end of the week. And then you'll have time to go through that package. If you want to stay longer, then you'll receive the package at the end of December, and then you'll have time through January to figure out if you want to accept it or not. You'll have until 2 p.m. tomorrow to say what you want to do. So that's basically you declaring, like, I want to just get my stuff now, or I want to stay through the end of the month. So that's what that transition of duties letter is for. Any questions about all of that, like the nuts and bolts stuff?
I understand this news comes with a lot of emotions, and you need time to process this information. Please feel free to take the rest of the day off today, or if you like to talk with me or talk to your manager, we are here. And any other question you have now? Okay.
This was.
Then
I'm
I'll
so
cut this off.
disappointed.
You know. And worth noting, there's 3 months of outplacement support. Those are folks that help you sort of figure out what you're going to do
Yeah,
next. They help you
I
with your
understand.
resume. They help you with all that.
I understand that. We're trying to buy a house.
I don't know that, but I understand.
I mean, like. Before the holidays? 2 weeks? Before the holidays? How callous? How callous?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
All right, so a couple things with this video. I think one, like I feel for you can tell that this lady is really hurting right from this news. I can tell you from sitting across the table, having to have some of these conversations. Pretty much, this is how it goes, right? There's a couple criticisms I do want to address from some other YouTubers that aren't HR professionals. Like one, they talked about like, oh, I can't believe they were reading a script. Well, we do that for a couple of different reasons. You can't predict people's reactions, and it helps protect the manager and HR from saying things that they should not say, because it is emotional. It's difficult, having to have these conversations with someone, especially when you're not letting them go because of something that they did to impact their employment negatively, but merely because of outliers, right? Things outside of their control. The performance of the company, the the revenue or profits of the organization, or anticipated costs that they might be planning for, that lead them to believe that, hey, we need to reduce our number of staff, or there might even be some departments that we just no longer need because our outlook and our forecast for the coming year are indicating and dictating to us that we just don't need these departments and we can't carry them on. I think that people forget that typically the folks that are issuing these messages, they're not necessarily the decision makers. They aren't necessarily those sitting at the top that have had to decide when to have these layoffs. I have been in positions where I have been at that table, right, and a part of those conversations. And I can't speak to the timing. I think that, there's a couple of different ways to look at it. One, yes, there are some write-ups. I've heard some people have mentioned that sometimes, again, sometimes organizations are able to have some tax write-offs on the monies that they're using to fund the restructuring actions, right? Because they are quite costly. But when you weigh the cost of moving forward with the restructuring action versus continuing to carry that overhead, likely if the cost of going through with the restructuring actions is less, and positions the company in a better position to become more profitable, they're going to go with the reduction in force, with the restructuring actions, right? um, I'm sure the timing was impacted because they wanted to get this extra headcount off their books for year end, for their year end reporting, so that when they report their numbers, especially if they're a publicly traded company, um, again, you want to show strong numbers. You want to show that, like your debt to income ratio is in a good place. You want to show that you're not carrying a lot of overhead that's unnecessary, and that you're signaling to the investors and to your board that, hey, we positioned ourselves so that we can enter into the next year, in this case 2025, strong, right? So that's my business perspective. I do wonder, as the leaders and decision makers that were sitting around that table, you know we're having the discussions. One, did anyone, particularly, did they have HR at the table? And if they did HR bring up the timing and the optics of what when they're issuing these? So for this lady, it says that she was told that her job was ending 2 weeks before Christmas, right? Um, Again, that's a hard pill to swallow. And so I just wonder if there were any discussions held, right? I will give the company some credit because they allow some actions, because in a scenario or situation where you're having to remove someone's role or a whole department, it was nice. I don't think she appreciated it at the time, but she might look back on it sometime later. But it was nice that they offered her either she could end her employment at the end of the week, or she could continue to stay on and transition like over the next month, which again would allow her the opportunity to be able to begin her job search. It's not ideal timing because at the end of the year, usually companies, people are on vacation, the hiring process slows down, right? Everyone's kind of out enjoying the holidays and trying to spend some time with their families, but at least it allows her yet another month to be able to transition. Many employees don't get that. Oftentimes, when you're notified, like that is your last day. Um, and I know she brought up the fact that she was trying to buy a house, right? That her and a spouse were trying to buy a house. Again, it sucks that this is happening to her. It sucks that the timing of it. However, she may reflect back later, while it was better for it to happen now versus after we bought the house and have this mortgage, and now we're stuck in this loan. Um, so again, I know she's just reacting off of first emotions, right, of being startled with this type of news. But I wish her all the best. Again, it's heart wrenching. I do know that, she mentioned she was recording, as we could see, and boldly told the HR person that was on the phone. I do want to just caution people, because this is not going to stop. This is going to continue into 2025. I have another video I did prior to this where we went over some of the store closings that were a shock, that have already been announced, and those that are due to happen in 2025. So you guys can watch that. But I do want to caution you guys, when you're getting in these meetings and these calls, you need to be very cognizant and understand the law requirements as it relates to whether the state that the other person or party on the other line is in, and whether or not they're a one-party state or a two-party state. And what that means is there are certain states that are considered one-party states, New York being one, California being another, for whom, well, they're two-party states. They're two-party states, New York and California, for whom you cannot record someone without their knowledge. Okay, so it just means that both parties need to know and be aware, and um, provide consent to being recorded, right? Now, one party state, which Michigan, where I'm located, um, has a different law, right? Which states that, again, like as long as one party is involved in the conversation and they know that the call is being recorded, then they're in the clear, right? Now, that means I can't set a recording up to listen to two people's conversation for whom I'm not part of the conversation. But as long as I'm a part of that conversation, then I am well within the law to record that video conversation, right? And so I know that it's become the popular thing for people to do, and I think they aren't even aware, like of the laws themselves. So I would just say, just use some caution, right? I know they've already lost their jobs, but it doesn't preclude them from being personally sued and liable, if they end up recording these things and then post them on a social media platform, because they do shed the company in a bad light, right? So just be cognizant of that. But that was definitely heart wrenching to see her go through that. Um, Now let's watch another young lady. So let me share the screen here. But her title says, "I just got laid off right before the holidays."
Is this effective like immediately? Like I have to close my laptop and
Yeah,
okay.
So I just got laid off. I'm still processing. what this means. So I actually started this job 2 months ago, and I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm starting this job on my birthday!" And I was like super excited. I was like, maybe this is a gift from God because for my birthday because it had been a year since I had been laid off from my previous job, and I had been looking for a job since I had been laid off from my previous job. So yeah, I was like, oh, this is definitely a gift from God, and I I enjoyed working for my company. I enjoyed working with all of my coworkers. They're like awesome people. They're great people. I just knew when I got that email notification, I came right out the office like, okay, this is about to be a layoff. I came out of my office like, yep, I think I think this is what this is for. It's a check-in, but I got laid off before, so I know the vibes. I know the vibes. Obviously, financially, this is not good because I'm needed to work. It's not, an option. So obviously, I'll be looking for a new job. But it literally took me a year to get this one. So you know, I'm gonna have faith, obviously, but you just never know how long it's actually gonna take for you to get another job. Gonna show up for me. So just want to tell you in advance that I appreciate you. Um, yeah, help me get my page out there so that I can.
Now this was a different take. Like she didn't record the whole like actual conversation, but um you can tell she just, she was able to handle it a little bit better. She'd mentioned that she'd been through a layoff like the year prior from another company, and maybe that's why she was able to handle um, this a little bit, differently, and had maybe a little less emotion than the other video that we watched. But I think that like she has such a positive attitude. I'm sure that this young lady will land on her feet, right, and quickly. And that's the thing too. Like I remember earlier in the year, it might have even been last year when all the tech layoffs were happening, and I would see people on LinkedIn that would write these glowing, like almost like reviews, right, and letters to their fellow colleagues that were still with the companies, and they were so positive. And I thought, wow. Again, if I'm the HR person hiring for XYZ company, like it makes me want to hire that person because they're not dogging that company out. They're not, talking bad about them. They're still, even in an unfortunate situation, they're still able to focus on the positives, right? And the things that they were able to take away from their experience that will help them grow into their next role. And so I think that's something to think about because now we have social media so accessible to us, and it's like we've been programmed that we need to share, share, share. And so again, I think, kind of think about that. How do you want to present yourself in your brand, your own personal brand, because you are your own brand, right? How do you want to present yourself to the world out there, to those potential future employers and, recruiters that you'll be engaging with, um, as these things happen. Now, I want to take a look at this one because this is an interesting one. I have not seen this video before, so I'm going to be watching it live with you guys. So let me just run it back.
I just got fired from my job 4 days before Christmas because apparently they couldn't all wait a week to fire me after Christmas. I have been so busy with said job that I have not had time to Christmas shop for anyone in my family. I am now back in my hometown and have no gifts for anyone, and now have no job. So, yeah, that's what's new with me as of 15 minutes ago. And do not want to tell anyone in my family about everything that I'm saying right now because I know it will ruin everybody's Christmas. So, yeah, that's on. That's great.
Now that was interesting. interesting because she doesn't want to tell anyone in her family, but she's on TikTok posting. I am a bit alarmed at the fact that she said she was notified via text message. I have no idea what company this is, if they have human resources or if they're contracting with someone, but I think this was not handled appropriately. Like, I don't understand. Like, again, I know we're using like texting and stuff to get a hold of people and in communication, but for a message like this is like heart wrenching. I feel so bad for this young lady. Like, I think this was definitely an HR blunder. This was not handled appropriately as far as the notification part of it. Um, so again, if you guys are in human resources yourselves and in a role where you're having to like, partner with the organizations to carry out these actions, just make sure that you have a plan and protocol. Because at the end of the day, like, yes, like once the company makes the decision that they need to make cuts, the actions have to be taken. But it's about how you do it. You can roll out these actions and still leave people with their dignity. And you should be challenging the leadership of these organizations and the management team on how they're administering these actions. That was completely inappropriate. Completely inappropriate. I don't even understand that. That kind of has me fired up because I hate to see HR represented so badly, right? And who knows, maybe HR tried to tell the manager not to do it and they did anyway. And that happens sometimes, but I feel so bad for this young lady.
I just
But
Hey there. Hey there. Hey, how are you? Good. How are you? I'm good. 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 Yeah, I've been on back-to-back calls for budget and going over some like new revamped like scorecards for the team. So okay. I appreciate you jumping on last minute though. Of course. Yeah. So I wanted to connect with you. So number one, I wanted to say how much, well, as I've been getting up to speed with collections, how much I appreciate you just like continuing to do what you know to do, continuing to own it. And as I get more up to speed with collections, you've not only revamped the process and helped it to become more centralized, but also creating those SOPs. Like those are critical. We have to have those like milestones and set processes. And it looks like you were instrumental in creating, I would venture to guess, most of it, if not all of it. So that has been incredibly helpful to have as a resource. But as we're looking at our collections process going forward, what we've decided to do is bring collections back to the branch level. And so what that means is we're actually going to be winding down our engagement with you so that way we can have the branches own the collections piece going forward. So Ian is going to be working to like on what that looks like and what that wind down process is. But it was really important for me. I wanted you to hear it from me so that we can have a conversation about it, as opposed to hearing about it from, And so what that wind down period looks like, I'm waiting for Ian to confirm. But I think it's going to be over the next 30 days. We'll be winding down kind of that relationship. So over the next 30 days, I still would love your help in helping with that transition.
now, see, this is ideal, right? Because again, when you have an employee that has actually been of value to the organization, it sounds like, again, his department or role is being eliminated truly because she mentioned they're bringing the work in house, right? And and someone that has shown and has a proven history of having emotional intelligence. So they're not going to just go on the computer and start deleting files. Yes, this happens, and hence that's why a lot of organizations choose, and why in the past I have also made the call to have the notification day be the individual's last day, right? Because we don't want them destroying proprietary information, and so I think that it's good. Like she's already kind of bringing him in the know, of what's going to happen with him, but also helping to bring him into the transition process, right? Letting him know, like, hey, like, we're not just throwing you away, like, out the door. And this also gives him a chance and an opportunity. Like I said, guys, we have to try to look for a silver lining in some of this. And he seems like he will understand and actually be able to do something with this other time that he has. Now he has like an additional 30 days to transition things over. He needs to get busy networking. I will tell you, a lot of these, if you're just posting, like submitting job posts on these job boards, I don't want to say you're wasting your time, but a lot of times when we put these job postings up, within the first hour, we've already got like 500 applicants, like no joke. And so, and don't let it be like if it's a work from home job, oh my goodness. Like, yeah, there's so many applicants. So the way that you want to try to administer your job search, you want to call on those family and friends. And I know this can be embarrassing, especially the time of year, but I believe in my heart, most people want to see others succeed. Yes, there's some people that are competitive. There's some people that are just mean. But I want to believe in my heart of hearts that most people have a heart and want to see others win and succeed. And if you come to them authentic and just let them know, hey, this just happened to me. Um, Most people are going to try. Like you might even have some friends or family, and sometimes it won't be those people. Sometimes it will be acquaintances, not even family, that will go hardest for you, that will say, hey, let me talk to my boss and see if we need some temporary help, even if it's temporary help, right? To kind of bridge the gap for you while you're continuing like to go hard with your job search. Like there's some people that will do that. Like you would just be amazed, but you have to show up too, right? Um, so that you're able to, and make sure that you're in a place where you are able to go through that transition. But I think this was ideal, right? Pulling him into the scenario to be able to help with the transition plan, right? Um, but it just, again, like as you scroll through there's
What in the
person after person. Some of these are repeat videos as well.
Inflationary pressures on costs and consumer spending. While we have worked extremely hard to navigate these headwinds and carefully manage our
Okay, this is the CEO of Party City issuing the message to their employees. I think this took place a few weeks ago. Now, I did a video. Well, actually, no, 5 days before Christmas is when it took place. Now, I just did a video talking about all of these different stores that have announced that they're closing and laying off and things, and they were part of that bunch. So let's see what he has to say.
our financial position in hopes of turning our situation around. Our very best efforts have not been enough to overcome these challenges. We've worked tirelessly to find a path forward that would allow us to remain in business. But ultimately, we have been left with no other choice but to begin winding down Party City. We wish that we had different news to report, and frankly, we recognize the flow of communication has not been how we typically handle sensitive matters like this. That is, without question, the most difficult message that I've ever had to deliver. And it's really important you know that we've done everything possible that we could to try to avoid this outcome. Unfortunately, it's necessary to commence a wind down process immediately. As you are likely aware, store closing sales are beginning today and will continue over the coming weeks and months. Our corporate office will be closing, and the Chester Distribution Center will also close.
Review on the topics I'm going to review on ADP. You can access that immediately.
Yeah, you can tell they're reading a script. And like I said earlier, again, that's done by design because you have to consider like the people on the other side of the screen. like this lady and the CEO even, like to give this message, like they probably couldn't even sleep the night before, right? Especially if they haven't had to go through one of these, rifts or restructuring enforced actions before. And so again, most people don't like silence. And so in silence, they begin to try to fill up the gaps and they start saying things that they should not say. They will give misinformation. And there's such important details. And you're talking to an audience for whom you just alerted them that their job's going away. So half of them aren't even listening to you like in that moment. And I explained this to my managers because I would have some of them fight back, right? That like, oh, I don't need a script, oh, I don't want to read. And here's the thing, you've just given someone some information that's going to change their life, right? And so when you give them this information, you begin to sound like Charlie Brown, the wah, 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 wah. They can't hear a word you're saying. They might be sitting there and nodding, but they're not taking in what you're saying. Their mind immediately goes to thinking about, okay, what am I going to do next? How am I going to tell my wife? How am I going to tell the kids? Oh my goodness, Johnny's supposed to go to college. How are we going to pay for college? Oh, we were supposed to go on this trip. We were going to buy this house. Their mind starts automatically thinking through those other scenarios, right? And so you want to be very accurate and specific in the information you're relaying to them. And so you don't want to wing it. And so again, I know some folks are put off by the reading of the scripts, but it is by design. Okay. And you can see it's been a long time since I've been on this thing. Okay, so let's go back to, I think this is the HR lady.
First, the paycheck that you've received today is for all hours worked through today, December 1st through today. This will be your final paycheck.
Mm.
Your benefits will continue through the end of December. Additional details on your benefits will be made available on ADP. There's a thorough resource on there for all of you with regard to benefits. I want to take a moment to talk to you about some of your benefit options, as I know this is going to be very important. Couple things for you to consider. For benefits, you have an opportunity to enroll in another employer's plan, if that's an option. You can enroll in your spouse or a domestic partner plan, if that's an option. Or you can enroll in the healthcare marketplace plan. You will be available for COBRA. You can certainly enroll in COBRA. But it is important for you to know the current PCHI plan will likely sunset during the wind down process. There's thorough information for your consideration, so you can look at all of these options that will be available to you. Again, it's on ADP. There's also information on there about filing unemployment on ADP. A few logistics. The network access, your network access will be shut off today. You do not need to return any equipment. You can keep your laptops, phones, monitors, and tablets for personal use. For anyone who has a company issued phone, these will remain active through January 15th. There's additional instructions on ADP with regard to the phones. I certainly know this is a lot to take in. We're going to continue to be available to you through Ask HR.
Hmm.
Please be mindful there are limited resources, but we will try to help you as you transition. My apologies. Again, all this information and FAQs are available
I'm so scared.
on ADP. Again, my apologies. Barry, I pass it back to you for some final comments.
All right. Thanks, Karen.
I think it was totally okay for her to show emotion. Um, One of the things I think that, it gets easy to forget is that, like, in a complete, like, mass layoff like this, where the whole company is going down and liquidating, um, their jobs are going away as well, right? And so, um, while they're having to deliver the message, they're also impacted. Now, yes, you're still obligated and expected to hold a level of professionalism. Like I said, when my company was acquired, I was notified. I was given like that heads up, which I'll have to do a show about that, because that was like I was notified on my birthday. I wasn't even at work, but I was given the heads up because I had people reporting to me. I had five individuals reporting to me. And so my boss wanted to make sure that I had a heads up. So when I came in, because I probably, they expected I probably would be inundated with questions. And so that I could kind of help my team and answer questions that they might have and help provide reassurances to them on what was happening with them. Um, but I think that, again, like it sucks. Um, and I have to say, like, yeah, some of this has been with, I would say, like with Party City. I don't feel like they really kept with the change in times and technology, right? A lot of like the stuff that I know we would go to Party City for, like we get off of Amazon, right? It's a symptom of, like, the boom of Amazon and the being able to order from online um, and things like this. I'm sure that there'll be case studies on some of these companies that have been around for years and years that we're now seeing go out of business, um, that will likely be used in business schools and things as teachings. But no, it completely sucks. And this is just a reminder that, hey, this impacts more than just, you sometimes. But when I tell you, like,
I got
there's just, again, so many of these messages, just so many of them. Again, it's hard to say with the timing, you know, was and how they came up with it. Again, I'm sure um, they were hoping to, get things wrapped up by the end of the year. Um, there may have even been discussions, like in this case with a Party City, a scenario like that. There may have been discussions for an acquisition or merger with them that might have fallen through, and that was the only other option, are these mass layoffs and closings. And so, no, it sucks. The timing is bad. I think, like I said, you do want to be cognizant on whether or not, like, listen to those financials. I know a lot of folks, if they're not in leadership, sometimes they just would blow off those, all employee meetings and not really pay attention to the financials, but pay attention to the rumblings and things that you're hearing around the office. Some of those key conversations where you're hearing folks say that, hey, where our numbers are bad, we haven't, our revenues have dropped. Those are some key indicators. And then I'm going to just share with you, you want to make sure that you stay on top of the financials. You can pull your company, if they're a publicly traded company, you can pull them up on the stock exchange and take a look yourself. You can also go here and take a look at the Warren Tracker, right, to see if your company is listed here. Like, they even have a map of layoffs right through 2024, where you can click on your state. But more specifically, you can go down here and you can see some of these organizations. Like, we've got Pfizer in Florida. Um, they're going to lay off 62 people, or they did already on 12/20 of 2024. Or that, no, they didn't. They notified. Their notification date was 12/20 of 2024, and the notification or the notice date is when they submitted their warrant information. Now, by law, again, there's certain criteria that a company has to meet by a certain number of employees and things like that. Um, when they're doing layoffs, that they have to submit what we call a warning letter to their government, their municipalities. And so it typically ends up on here. But I do like the site because it gives you a pretty good overview so that you're able to see more of the information, right? And so you can actually see all of the layoff notices for Pfizer that have gone up, right? And also, many times like this site will have like the dates. So you can see with this particular one, the actual layoff date is until February 24th of 2025, and it's in Tampa. It's going to be 62 people. So guess what? If, again, there comes a point where you're going to have to take matters into your own hands. If I'm an employee and I see my company up here and I see the state and like the location, the city or jurisdiction, and I work there, like that lets me know I need to dust off my old resume. Or if I have a side business, I need to start stepping it up, and I need to start putting some extra time in building that business out so that I can prepare and plan for the worst. Because the other thing too, if you're not the one that's impacted, who do you think is going to pick up those other people's work that they were doing? It's going to be the folks that survived the layoff, right? So it's like either way, you're going to be impacted, whether you're the one that's getting notified that you're losing your job, or if you are the one that's, ends up being able to stay with the company. So keep that in mind too. But like some of these from my previous video, like the CVS was on there, Big Lots was on there. It's interesting, they have McDonald's restaurants of California, they're doing some layoffs. AT&T in Florida. Um, Again, we got CVS Corporation. Again, and we can see like the layoff is actually in February, but the notice has been sent out. And so the list just goes on and on and on. It looks like it's non-discriminatory as it relates to industry. Um, it spans across industries, across states. There's different, numbers of employees that are being impacted. And so this is some good information to just make sure that you're abreast and aware of. If you want to do a more specific search, you actually can just type in the company name, right? Like we could look at Amazon, for instance, and take a look and see. But like I said, this is a good site. Just at go into some of the charts and maps of detailed history of Amazon layoffs if you'd like as well. They give you the map of the Amazon layoffs and warrant acts for Amazon so that you can see those things. Like there's some layoffs that are taking place on the 27th, which is today. But the warrant notification went out on the 10th. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the employees know, but the government municipalities. And so, like I said, you want to check the site out because this will give you a leg up and a bit of a heads up. And just keep in mind, guys, like we have to keep our head about this as well. If you go out here and see your company on here and it happens to be the same state, the same city, you can't march in and march right to HR the next day. Hey, I saw us on the warntracker.com site. Like I said, these people are sworn to, confidentiality, and some of them may not even know. Or you go to the boss, like the shop floor, foreman, and hey, are we closing? I hear we're getting some layoffs. They're probably not even in the loop, right? Because at the time when like these notices go out, again, like only the people, the decision makers sitting around the table to plan this thing out, and half the time you're still in the planning process, right? Of exactly how many employees, exactly the logistics of how everything will work. Like they aren't going to be able to tell you, even if they know. And half the time, like the people that you might be having your day-to-day interactions with, they aren't high enough on the totem pole to even know or have the level of details to be able to give you solid information. So just beware of that. um, Again, I think that it's going to be a change in time, right? As we go into 2025, I'm looking forward to 2025. I actually think overall it's going to be a good year, but there's going to be some shuffling that's going to take place. I think that for some certain industries, certain individuals, it's going to feel like all heck is breaking loose and it's going to be painful, but I think we're going to come out on the other side, those that are diligent and those that are willing to take action. And by taking action, I mean looking introspectively and looking honest with yourself without the delusions on whether or not you need to increase your polish. You might need to increase your skill sets as well. Some of these videos, again, I just have to tell it from an HR perspective, right? When I look at these videos, most of the folks on these videos are working from home. Most of them, when you look at these videos, of course, they're distraught because they're just getting this horrible news. But some of these people look like they literally just rolled out of bed and did not even splash water on their face. And so when I think about the fact that this is likely how they've been interacting like day to day for some of these corporations, right? Whether it's meeting with clients internally or outside of the organization. So again, there's like some, there's some checks and balances there too, right? Even if you're working from home, it still means that you're working from home. It means that you're working and that you're representing the company and the company's brand. And you should be doing that with excellence. You shouldn't be on your computer and you have one of these spaced out backgrounds and we can tell you're lying back on the couch or in bed. I've been in meetings. I've been in eight figure organizations. I've been in meetings with some employees from those organizations and I literally can tell they're laying on the couch or laying in bed. And some of the top leadership has been in those same meetings, like with the individuals. And it's like, what are you thinking? And so then fast forward, a year or two later, when the person or people get let go, it's not a surprise to me. Like if I end up running into someone or they end up calling our office, and I may ask, oh, how is so and so doing? And you hear, oh, they're not with us anymore. I already know what it is. Like they don't even have to tell me, oh, we let them go, which they shouldn't be telling me, right? Unless like I'm working with them in that capacity to help them with some things. But I think it's going to be a stretch year for a lot of people, an opportunity for them to grow, to step up. Um, it's going to be a reshuffling for many of these organizations and a resetting. Like, let's talk real about this. Like during the pandemic, it became an employee market. And so employees were able to name their price. Employees who never would get some of these roles and positions within these companies were given these jobs, right? They knew they didn't have the paperwork, they did not have the credentials or the pedigree to even be able to hold some of these positions. But for some of the organizations, because their hands were tied and they really needed people in the seats, they overlooked or they changed their requirements of needing certain certifications or certain education to be in some of these roles. So for some of the organizations, they're using this as an opportunity to get back to the business model that they need to be in that provides them with the greatest amount of profitability and efficiencies, right? It gives them an opportunity to get some folks out of the door for whom they're not appropriately placed, right? They really do not hold the right credentials and knowledge to be able to carry the organization forward. For some of the organization, they're strategizing. They're strategizing for 2025 and, in their future outlook with, again, we know that we're going to have, some tariffs that come into play with the other countries. Some of these companies have parts and things that are being made in other companies because it helps with their profit margin, right? But now they're going to see an increase in those, costs, the cost of doing business. So they have to adjust, hence partly, which may be driving some of the timing of this. So, like I said, so they can walk into 2025 and with better foot positioning, as well as, take advantage of the tax write-offs that they will be able to get with some of the monies that they're having to spend for the severance packages and things. But that was my reaction video just on, again, like all of these mass layoffs. I think that, again, it's easy to get shaken up and to get fearful. Please do not let yourself get fearful, right? If anything, this should motivate you. It should motivate you to do the things that you've been putting off for the last 5 years. It should motivate you to get the education and additional certifications to be able to set yourself apart. It should motivate you to learn how to use this technology. How are you using AI technology in your day to day? How are you using it in your career? How are you using it, and what things are you doing to set yourself apart from the others? Ask yourself that question. Bye.